Today we're going to be exploring a few different collage techniques, but I don't want you to worry too much about the finished product. You are going to need glue, scissors, a pencil, and I'm going to ask you to have a white piece of paper plus 2 colors of construction paper that contrast. So looking at these 3 colors, let's see, I could use pink and purple, I could use pink and blue, I could use blue and purple. I think to me pink and purple look pretty different from each other, so I'm going to choose those 2. And then I need to choose one for my background, and I'm going to decide that pink is going to be the page that I glue everything down to when I'm done. So I'm going to put the white one aside. Your other colored paper, we're going to start by folding it in half. It doesn't have to be straight, you just need a fold. On that fold, we're going to use another technique that's called tearing. So you're going to tear a shape. And again, I don't want you to worry too much about your shape. I'm just going to start on the fold and get myself back to the fold. Okay, so now what's happened is I have what's called a positive shape and a negative shape. I might decide that I really like the idea of having pink fill in that shape, and I could decide that maybe later I'm going to glue this down. We're not going to use any glue yet, but I just want you to be aware that you have positive shapes and you have negative shapes. That was tearing. This time I'm going to cut something out of the middle of this shape, and I'm just going to use a wavy line. You could use straight lines, you could cut a heart shape if you want to, it really doesn't matter, but I want you to be aware that again I have a positive shape and a negative shape. So I've done tearing, folding, cutting. We're going to do something else with folding in a minute, and you need a scrap of paper that you can fold. So I'm going to cut the corner off of this. I'm going to fold it in half once, and I'm going to fold it in half twice. And now when I cut a shape, how many do you think I'm going to have? If you said 4, you are correct, but I will tell you that sometimes when you do this, you end up with 2, depending on whether you cut on the fold or not. So I'm going to show you what would happen. See, this time I did not cut on the fold, I cut with a space, but if I were to cut a shape starting on the fold and ending on the fold and I open it up, I only got 2 because I really only cut half the shape that time. So I'm starting to have a page filled with shapes, and I'll tell you, I didn't do this on purpose, but it's starting to sort of remind me of a flower and some petals. And if I wanted to, I could keep going and I could start cutting out a stem on purpose. But one of the techniques that we have not covered yet is called layering. And I haven't used my white paper yet. So we do have 3 colors available for this project. And let's say I wanted to layer some shapes on top of this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a scrap a little bit bigger than that one. I am going to fold this in half, and I'm going to trace that shape so I know how big of a space I have to work with. Okay. So now if I wanted to put a shape inside that shape, this time I might try to do a heart on purpose. So I'm going to start sort of cutting a V, and then when I turn around at the top, boop, I have a shape that I can glue on top of my purple shape. Now I kind of like the way this is going, and so I'm going to cut this one out too. And when I open that up, I could, if I wanted to glue it down, it could be make it a pink heart, or I could cut a little scrap of purple to go behind it. So if I wanted the purple to be exactly the right size, what I would do is I would trace the shape, but I wouldn't cut on the line because I want a shape to go in that space, right? What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit bigger than the shape that I just drew so that I have a place to put some glue. So you see the back of it will be a little bit bigger, and the front will just fill in that space. And I may have cut it a little bit too big. I may have to trim it when I'm done. All right, so it looks like I'm starting to build a garden here, and your assignment is not to make a garden. I just started cutting out shapes, and that's sort of what they started looking like. So I'm gonna go with it. I want you to cut out some shapes and see what your picture starts to look like, and then you should go with it. So I'm gonna need a stem for my flowers, maybe some grass, maybe some animals, whatever it is I want to finish my picture. But again, you don't have to have a finished product today. Your job today is to play around with some different collage techniques. And collage is when you glue papers down to a background. So I have to talk about glue really quick before I send you on your way. I'm going to pick a little piece of one of these to be my scrap paper. And anytime I'm going to glue something down, what I am not going to do is I am not going to put glue on my background paper because I don't know exactly how much I need. I am going to put glue on the back of the paper that I'm going to glue down. So I'm going to turn my paper over, use my glue stick. You could also use white glue, and then put it down and give it a nice little massage. And then I can add some glue to my next shape. So remember to use a scrap paper under your pieces so you're not getting glue on your table. So I glued all my shapes down, and I just want to review. I used folding to create some positive and negative shapes. I ended up tearing a page off to make the ground down here so my flowers would have somewhere to grow. So I did folding, I did cutting, I did tearing. I used positive and negative shapes, and I arranged them in a space to make a balanced composition. And then I glued it down. So remember, your job is not to make a garden today. Your job is to experiment with different paper cutting and collage techniques and see where they take you.